How's it going, guys? I'm back. I want to expose a psychological ploy being used by police today. And a little disclaimer real fast that I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is for educational purposes only. And of course, you still want to verify what I say because I could always be wrong. Now, the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution clearly states we have a right to not incriminate ourselves. Now, a lot of case law out there fortifies this idea, and one of the cases that I love is Miranda versus Arizona. Now, Miranda was a man who was charged with raping a girl, and the police basically tricked him and coerced him into signing a confession. Now, he did not know he didn't have to sign or say anything. They said, you better sign it, and you have to sign it, and that was that. So, of course, as soon as he signed it, they showed this to the jury, found guilty. No brainer. Well, he appealed the conviction because he said, wait a minute, I have a right to not incriminate myself, but I found out after the fact. Well, his attorney did, actually. This was back when attorneys would help people. Now they just do plea bargains. And so the attorney took it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, you know what, you're correct. They did not tell him he did not have to sign that, or they did not tell him that he did not have to say anything to the police. So they gave Mr. Miranda a get-out-of-jail-free card, and they warned all officers that they must give a Miranda warning or Mirandize suspects in custody before questioning them. Of course, the police weren't too happy with that because it makes it a little bit harder to trick people. But in the real world, this isn't happening today. And I'm going to explain to you why it's not, and how a friend of mine learned the hard way that he should listen to me a little more often instead of thinking it's not going to apply to him ever. So what happened was, a friend of mine calls me at 3 in the morning, not too long ago, and tells me, hey, I just got bailed out. I said, what happened? He goes, well, I was charged with a crime and they arrested me. And I said, well, wait a minute, before we go any further, write it down on a piece of paper while it's fresh in your mind, and after that you can go ahead and read it a minimum of 5 times, at least 5 times, and you will remember something, because your mind, the way it works is if it sees something that's omitted or something out of place from its memory, it will remind you, hey, look, this is also what happened. And so then you got to say, oh yeah. Well, so for example, if you put I was arrested on this date, and then you remember, oh yeah, the officer's name was John Doe. Officer John Doe arrested me on this date. But each time you put something new, do not put a little arrow, do not squeeze it in, write it on a new sheet of paper. That's exactly what I told him. So in other words, if he were to put, I was arrested on this date, and then remember the officer's name, he would use a new sheet of paper, Officer John Doe arrested me on this date. That way it keeps it clean, and your brain works more efficiently that way. And so he did that, called me later on, and so what happened was, he was arrested and charged with a crime. They put these beautiful jewelry on him, called handcuffs, put him in the back of the car. There's 2 squad cars there. One of them has 2 cops in it, the one he's in, and the other one had only 1 cop in it. So the cops get out. After they arrested him, they go in and get some stuff from the car. Then they get out, and they start talking for 3-4 minutes, he said. And then I don't know where they all come back and get in the car where he's at. So now there's a cop next to him and 2 cops in front of him. And they started asking him questions. And after he answered all the questions, because he did not know his rights or know basic law, the cop next to him gets out of the car, goes in his squad car, and goes wherever. And the other 2 cops are finishing up paperwork. Now the driver cop is teaching the passenger cop how to fill out the paperwork, and then all of a sudden turns around to my friend and says, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. If you want to have an attorney present, you want an attorney, let us know and one can be provided for you. Do you understand your rights? He said, yeah. Okay. The cop turns back to the other cop and says, okay, you got to check this box right here, and you got to sign it right there, and we're done. We're good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. So let's go. Turns on the car and heads towards the police station, presumably to book him. And so what happened was, after everything was said and done, he bails out, and I asked my friend, I said, well, let me ask you something. I said, are you going to fight this? He says, no, man. He goes, you know what? He goes, they asked me the questions, and I told them things, they answered the questions, and he told me I had a right to remain silent, blah, 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 but I had already told him stuff, so I know that doesn't apply to me. Because I had already given him information, so since I already told him, it doesn't apply to me. And I said, okay, oh, that's the way you think, huh? I said, so you don't think it applies to you? He goes, no. Matter of fact, I'm hoping they give me some type of plea deal, because I'll take the first one they give me if they even decide to give me one. And I said, hey, well, let me tell you a case. It's called Miranda versus Arizona. He goes, look, man, he goes, I know you're trying to help me. He's like, man, but I'm just going to take any plea bargain they give me, man. I'll take it, because nothing can help me now. I said, okay, well, if it could help you, you mind me telling you about this case? He goes, yeah, sure. Well, I told him about it, and then he realized, well, they were supposed to Mirandize him prior to asking him questions. But you see, that's a psychological ploy. They do it on purpose that way, because then people think, well, it doesn't apply to me now because I already told them, so nobody can help me. And they just go and take the first plea bargain that they are offered. So be aware, folks. Now, there's another case, I don't remember the name of the case, where people were complaining about somebody. Well, somebody got arrested, and they were driving them to the police station. Well, this guy started just telling the cops certain things. They hadn't asked him a question at all. And then he turned around later when he was convicted, found guilty, and they used, obviously, his statements against him. And he argued that they violated his Fifth Amendment right. And the Supreme Court came back and said, no, it doesn't apply because nobody ever asked you a question. And for Miranda to be triggered, they have to ask you a question. But because they didn't, you gave voluntary statements. Now, there is a motion to suppress for voluntary statements to the police, but that's a different topic. However, in other words, if cops don't ask you questions at all, then I would just simply say nothing. Plead the fifth, I want an attorney. That's it. If they want to ask me questions, I plead the fifth, I want an attorney. Now they can't ask me anything. And if they do, fruit of the poisonous tree, which means they cannot use it against me because it is tainted. Now, I asked my friend, hey, so were they recording you? Did you see any red lights? He goes, yeah, they were recording me. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? From what you're telling me, from what I'm reading from your statement of what happened, I highly doubt they're going to even use it anyways. He's like, why? I'm like, well, because cops always use recordings or video that's going to help them prosecute you and put you in jail, or simply help the city or county get more money out of you. That's it. I said, but if it shows that they're liable because they violated your civil rights or they did something illegal or maybe even criminal, they're going to delete it. That's just how it works. And he's like, nah, I don't think they'll do that. Well, sure enough, filed an informal request for discovery. Long and behold, no audio, no video, nothing. Just police report. So then I thought about it. I'm like, well, okay, fine. They want to say there's nothing there, then how can they prove that they Mirandized them? So, motion to suppress defendant statement to law enforcement was filed. And allegations of them not Mirandizing them at all could have been made, but weren't made. But if they were, how would they prove it? Unless they would come out with a recording that didn't exist. So he told this side of the story of actually how it happened, and said that he saw the red lights they were recording. Well, the case got dropped. It didn't get dismissed, which means when a case gets dropped, it can be refiled. But when it's dismissed, you've won because you went all the way through jury trial, or the judge simply dismissed it for other reasons. So in this case, it can always be refiled, but I highly doubt it will be. But what I want to do, because I want to do more research, I want to go ahead and provide this for people that donate $10 and can simply study this and see how it is put together, for the simple fact that donations help me do more research, and that way I can come up and see other ways of beating illegal things that are done by some officers. And if you guys want to do that, let me know. I'll go ahead and email it to you. But if not, either way, I hope that this video helped you guys out and will keep you guys on your toes as far as what psychological ploys some cops will do to people that don't know their rights, which I think is just unethical. But hey, they want to make money, so what can you do? Godspeed, guys, and thanks for watching.